All right, let's dive right into this explainer. Today we're neutrally unpacking a really fascinating cable news discussion that breaks down the breaking news of US strikes in the Middle East. And more importantly, we're looking at their surprising domestic fallout. Because, when military action happens overseas, the shockwaves literally never just stay on the battlefield. They wash over our politics, our culture, and absolutely our economy. So we're going to explore exactly how a single geopolitical event gets processed through the lens of a major cable news broadcast.
To make sense of this sprawling conversation, we've broken it down into 4 distinct thematic ripples. First, the strikes in the Strait. 2, midterms and political strategy. 3, the generational divide. And 4, economics of the conflict.
Okay, starting off with Section 1, Strikes in the Strait, the catalyst event. This whole conflict escalated incredibly fast, basically like a giant geopolitical domino effect. Phase 1 kicks off with an attack on a Cyprus-flagged container ship. That leads directly into Phase 2, where the US Commander-in-Chief issues a strict ultimatum. But despite that warning, in Phase 3, Iran hits additional ships, and that instantly triggers Phase 4, with US Central Command announcing a third round of direct US strikes. It's just a classic real-time action and reaction cycle playing out right on our screens. The stated goal from the military was pretty straightforward: disrupt and neutralize the threat in the Strait of Hormuz, just ensuring safe passage for global shipping. But as the panel explored, a directive executed thousands of miles away instantly creates political shockwaves back home. They immediately pivoted from the tactical military goals to decoding what this actually means for American voters. Which brings us to Section 2, Midterms and Political Strategy, the political ripple. The panel dug into 2 totally contrasting approaches to foreign policy here. On one side, you have the diplomatic route, 60-day memorandums of understanding and endless negotiations. Some view this as just a tedious rinse and repeat cycle. The alternative? Immediate, decisive military action to literally just finish the job. The panelists impartially debated whether voters heading into the midterms would punish the administration for getting militarily engaged or actually reward them for taking a definitive stance instead of always playing catch-up. One commentator made a really strong point about this, arguing that the American people prefer finality. They said, the worst thing that can happen is rinse and repeat for months on end. The argument is essentially that voter fatigue sets in incredibly fast when an administration appears to be locked in endless talks with actors who just aren't negotiating in good faith. So in this view, decisiveness is a highly valued political currency. Moving on to Section 3, the generational divide, the cultural ripple. This part was absolutely fascinating. Panelist Riley pointed out a profound sense of exhaustion among younger voters. She suggested that for a lot of Gen Z conservatives, the phrase America First has kind of morphed into America Only. Actually, scratch that, it's not even a political opposition thing, it's just a fundamental desire to avoid foreign entanglements completely. They're just tired of it. When you break down the sociological analysis here, it makes total sense. Think about Gen Z. They came of age entirely during a 20-year war on terror. The result of that? Exhaustion, numbness, and confusion when they see breaking news about Middle East strikes. To them, it's just another Tuesday. But for Gen X and Boomers, their defining geopolitical moments were sudden, really traumatic events, like the Beirut bombings and 9/11. Having witnessed the sudden devastation of radicalism firsthand, those older generations tend to have far more patience for aggressive posturing to keep those threats at bay. To really ground this theory in reality, one of the older panelists shared a deeply poignant story. He talked about being in New York City on September 11th, getting off a ferry, and physically seeing the destruction where he knew his friends were dying. It's a powerful reminder that for older demographics, foreign policy isn't just some abstract political theory, it's deeply rooted in personal trauma. That lived experience completely explains their tolerance for military strikes aimed at preventing future terrorism, which is a stark contrast to Gen Z's fatigue. And finally, Section 4, Economics of the Conflict, the economic ripple. Now, the panel grounded all this political punditry in current economic realities, specifically looking at oil futures. At the time of this broadcast, the price of oil was sitting right at $71 a barrel. This number is absolutely crucial because it's a real-time gauge of how much the global market is panicking, or in this case actually not panicking, about the conflict. And to put that into perspective, that $71 figure is pretty wild when you remember that at the very beginning of this conflict, oil was up at $100 a barrel. So despite the breaking news of third-round military strikes, the panel noted a surprising downward trend. It indicated that global markets weren't entirely spooked by the instability just yet. But high-level macroeconomic data doesn't always match the everyday voter's reality. The commentators pointed out that despite the drop in oil barrels, the price for a gallon of gas at the pump was still around $3.88. It had been well over $4 before shore, but nearly $4 gas is still a highly visible daily frustration for everyday Americans. It's literally a constant reminder of global instability every single time they fill up. So here's the stark warning the panel laid out. If this escalation continues and the Strait of Hormuz gets completely disrupted, those relatively stable prices are gone. Gas prices will inevitably spike. The panel noted that this would become a major problem for Republican midterm prospects, since the ruling party usually bears the brunt of economic frustration. Plus, a prolonged, expensive conflict gives Democrats an incredibly strong counterargument against the administration's military strategy. It's a very delicate economic tightrope. Wrapping up the administration's approach to this whole web of challenges, one panelist offered a brilliant little tweak on a classic phrase. We all know Teddy Roosevelt's "speak softly and carry a big stick," right? Well, the panel defined the current commander-in-chief's strategy as speaking loud and carrying a big stick. It's a highly vocal, very aggressive style. But as they noted, while that decisiveness might appeal to some voters, it carries immense consequences and requires an incredibly delicate balancing act to prevent a full-blown economic and geopolitical crisis. Which leaves us with this final, provocative question to take away from today's explainer. We've seen how a strike in the Strait of Hormuz ripples through generational divides, influences midterms, and threatens prices at the pump. But the ultimate variable here is the American public. As these military actions continue to ripple through our economy and culture, how long will voter patience truly last if the conflict continues to escalate? It's the multi-million-dollar question that will ultimately define the political landscape.